Good morning. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Do you want to make an announcement now?
Yes, if it's okay with all the board members, I have asked Commissioner Hurd to serve as the chair before our item 8A with the election of officers, because right now we don't have a chair or a vice chair present at this meeting, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay.
Good. Would Pastor Jim Harp please lead us in prayer? Good morning.
Thank you for the privilege. Let's pray. Our Father, we come before you this morning, and I just thank you, Lord, for the great privilege to be able to pray. And Lord, I believe that prayer makes a difference. And God, we thank you that you've told us in your word, in the Holy Bible, that we are to pray for those in authority over us, those especially elected officials, those, God, that you have raised up to lead your people, to lead the citizens of this county, Lord, in making decisions and to guide and direct. And so, God, I thank you, first of all, for them. I pray for them, Lord. I pray for your blessing to be upon them and upon their families, Lord. I pray for your protection. I ask you, God, to fill them with your wisdom that you've told us in your word, that if any of us lack wisdom, we're to ask, and you give freely and without reproach to those who ask in faith. I pray, God, for just direction and guidance, and Lord, so I thank you for all these things. For our commissioners and those that you placed in authority. Ask your blessing upon this meeting today, Lord, that you will guide and direct, that, Lord, there would be a sense of unity and direction, and, Lord, that you would just accomplish your purposes in and through each one. Help each of us today, Lord, to recognize not only your presence here in this meeting, but your presence with us as we go about our lives and the direction, Lord, that you would have us go. So thank you, God. Thank you for this time, and I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you please do the roll call?
Commissioner Eileen Vargas.
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Hurd.
Here.
Commissioner Stacey Hetherington is excused. Commissioner J. Blake Capps is excused. Commissioner Edward Campy.
Here.
Commissioner Christopher Collins. Here. Commissioner Kaya Mayfield.
Here.
Mayor Carmine DiPaolo.
Here.
Commissioner Sean Reed.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Excellent.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce the MPO's new administrative assistant, Susan Ortiz. She'll be the clerk for this meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Campy.
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Campy.
I'd now make a motion to approve the minutes from the MPO board meeting from December 16, 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Are there any members of the public who would like to address us? I don't have any requests to speak. Election of officers, 8A.
Okay, this item comes before you every year in February. Per our bylaws, the election of officers occurs at the first meeting of our calendar year. The officers are chair and vice chair, and just to kind of give you some information about that, we do have some other groups that the chair and the vice chair have historically participated on because they are officers to the Martin MPO. One group is the MPOAC, the MPO Advisory Council. That's a statewide MPO that meets once a quarter. Just to let you know, the appointees for the governing board, there's one appointee and an alternate. They do not have to be an officer of the MPO, but historically, the Martin MPO have always had has had the chair as the member and then the vice chair as the appointee. The other group is a regional group called the Treasure Coast Transportation Council. They meet about once a year, and they meet with St. Lucie MPO board members and Indian River MPO board members, and there's 2 from each MPO on the Treasure Coast Transportation Council. The chair needs to be one of those members. The vice chair does not have to be the second member. It can be the vice chair, it could be someone else. Historically, it has been the vice chair. I am going to ask today, usually we have 2 alternates, but I am going to ask today if you all will nominate 3 alternates to be on this regional committee, just because it's a regional council. It meets once a year, and I really want us to be able to have both people representing the Martin MPO at that meeting. So those are just I wanted to kind of explain some of the extra duties of the chair and the vice chair. So with that, I will turn it over to, back to you, Commissioner.
Sure.
Ms. Beltran, I remember during our meetings that the chair, there were certain criteria that would make some eligible and some temporarily not eligible. Can you
That's
share
correct.
what-
In the bylaws, it designates, it specifies that an officer on the MPO board must have gone to the MPOAC Weekend Institute training or have 2 years' experience on the MPO. Right now, of the 9 members of the Martin MPO, only 3 are eligible to be an officer. Commissioner Hurd, you, Commissioner Campy, and Commissioner Heatherington.
So with that in mind, not having the ability to select from the entire group, I think you have a relatively narrow scope. So my nomination is not meant as a slight to our newest members. There is certain criteria that make it have to be this way, and I would be my pleasure to honor to nominate Commissioner Hurd to continue as chair of the MPO. She's doing a remarkable job. She represents well. She'll represent the county well.
Second.
Also, where are the MPOAC meetings and where are the TCTC meetings?
The MPOAC meetings are usually in Orlando, almost always in Orlando. Like I said, it's a statewide meeting, so all the MPOs, all 27 MPOs in the state gather in Orlando, and it's usually quarterly. The regional meetings actually rotate MPOs. The next one we're going to have is going to be in St. Lucie, and that's going to be probably in March. And then the next after that, it'll be in Martin County, but we will have had another election of officers by that time. So, so we rotate where it is, where the regional meeting is.
Okay. So, let's see. So we need to do a chair and a vice chair. So, commissioners, I also serve on the Children's Services Council, and I'm missing a meeting now, and I also have a conflict on May 19th and October 27th. I don't know how to resolve this.
That we had that situation at one of our advisory committee meetings with the chair's schedule. And so what we can do, our meetings are set based on our deadlines for FDOT and Federal Highway. What we can do is change the time of the meeting to probably be hopefully that same day, if not maybe that same week. But that's workable. I mean, staff can.
Well, it's
work.
workable if
That's
it's.
workable.
But it is, if we can, rearrange everybody's schedules to agree with mine.
Well, part of it can also be that if you have 2 responsibilities, the vice chair could sit in and still let you have all the other meetings.
Right, I mean, yeah, however you want to do it. I will say, we've historically had this meeting 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. The nice thing about that is the Martin MPO usually always has a quorum because people have meetings either tonight or tomorrow. Some of my counterparts in other parts of the state sometimes have trouble getting quorums for their board meetings. So, I can, May, and if you would like staff to look at May and October to change possibly the time or the day.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Poll members and find out kind of what availability they have. I'm okay to,
Or again, having the vice chair.
Yeah.
yeah.
on the meeting when those
With the
overlap.
Commissioner Collins is correct. With a 9-member board, you're still well represented, even from a quorum. We have 2 members missing today. We're still a big group.
Oh, you're so persuasive, Commissioner Camp.
My big concern is just to make sure we have a quorum, because things need to be approved because of the deadlines that we have. May, I don't think that's going to be a problem. October, I'll need to check with FDOT. We do have the tentative work program coming out in October, and so I just want to make sure, we can make sure we have a quorum to be able to vote on that.
Commissioner Collins, is this light yours?
Yes, it is. I would like to make.
Well, we didn't do the vote of the first one yet.
Well, do we do
We do it
the?
in one?
Yeah, you were the second, correct? I don't think she heard you.
Okay. Can we do it
Okay.
all in one, or we?
Okay, we'll do them separately. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner
I'd like to
Collins.
make a motion if Commissioner Campy's open to being the vice chair, that he might fill that slot.
Second.
Thank you. The criteria was the same for vice chair as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'll accept.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Now we need to nominate 3 TCTC
Okay,
alternates,
so
correct?
I want to get for the MPOAC, the statewide MPO. So are you all, do you all agree with keeping it the same where the governing board member will be the chair and the alternate will be the vice chair? Or would you like to nominate other people to be?
Would anybody like to go?
I was
Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking that the chair, especially to have someone be brand new to go to that meeting with every other county, I think maybe if you left the chair, but the opportunity to give new members a chance to gain that experience, I think the secondary, the alternate, should be open to everybody if someone's interested. That's also how you work. Otherwise, if you're a new member, you'd have to sit on this board for 2 years before you could be chair, versus if you go through that training, you'd immediately be eligible to be chair. Otherwise, you're waiting. So if any of you are interested, I know the
I
last,
haven't been, but I've heard it's wonderful.
there was a commissioner who's no longer here who raved about it and said it was the best thing he ever did.
Yeah.
But it's a passion. I mean, it's a thing you gotta like.
Okay.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, this is the meeting that's once a year.
The
is that
one-
what you-
No, this is the quarterly meeting, the statewide meeting, where all the MPO
Oh,
board
so-
members
Oh, these are
come
the alternates for
together.
the MPOAC.
MPOAC.
I was moving ahead. I was going to say I'd do the other one, but I'm not sure about 4 meetings.
Blake would like to do it, too.
Hey, that's how you
I
get,
hate to do this without his approval, but I think he would like it.
perfect.
She said it.
Well, no, he really
likes
is
that.
really digging in,
Yeah.
and he's gaining experience, and he seems to be enthusiastic about everything.
Okay, so that would be for the alternate or for the, because for the MPOAC member, it could be anyone. It could,
Yeah.
I just need a member and an alternate. So historically, it's been the chair and the vice chair, but if you all want to,
I think the best we could do with him not being here is make him the alternate.
Me too.
okay.
Yeah, not the primary, because it'd be like, hey, guess what? I do agree with Commissioner Hurd that I think, knowing Blake, he likes the details, he likes digging into that kind of stuff. I think he would find it interesting. But of course, everyone that's here,
He was on the, well, not that, just as a point of information, he was on the MPO Citizens Advisory Committee, committee for a number of years before he was elected as commissioner, so he is,
I'd make a motion that Commissioner Hurd would be our primary and Commissioner Capps would be our alternate.
okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Now on to TCTC.
TCTC, okay, so one member has to be the chair, and then the other member can be anyone, and then I am asking for 3 alternates. And this meets once a year, and that meeting's probably like about an hour and a half.
Okay.
And the next meeting is going to be probably next month in St. Lucie County.
I have served on that. It's an interesting meeting for 2 reasons. One, obviously, you're talking about the local issues because they don't just start and stop in Martin. A lot happens in St. Lucie. That, believe it or not, those residents drive over the border. But it's also a great opportunity to meet your other elected officials. That's the value that I took from that.
Okay.
Well, and also to meet their coordinator, their Beth's equivalent.
Yeah.
My counterpart.
So you're looking for 3,
So I guess my
Chair
question is,
plus three.
are you all okay with the chair and the vice chair being the members? And then, I know at least 2 people that are interested in being alternates, but I was just going to ask for.
well, if there's more than 2, I don't need to be on it. I have been on it, so. But I get the comment of having it be 3 people, so you're not ever
Okay.
short.
Okay, so the chair and the vice chair can be the members, and then I know the two of the people that are interested in being alternates are Commissioner Mayfield and Commissioner Heatherington.
Okay.
And just as a safety net, because I always like, just to make sure we'll have representation, if there could be a third alternate, that would be, I would appreciate it.
Commissioner Vargas is raising her hand.
Well, may I make a suggestion? I will drop out because you shouldn't have all of them be county commissioners. There should be someone either from the city we have, or,
So we got Heatherington, Mayfield.
well, I
and
mean
Vargas.
more than one, so it would be 4 commissioners and 1 Sewell's Point. I think you got City of Stewart and Indiantown. Not that I'm trying to force them to do things, but if we're going to represent the county as a whole,
Yeah, it's only once a year, and it's.
but you can go to the meeting, correct?
I'm sorry?
The alternates can go to the
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're alternates.
Because I think I was the alternate, and we still went to the meetings. But I'm just putting that out there. I didn't want to make it look like it was all lopsided. I have no problem.
Vargas is
Interested, then sold.
I'm not loving it.
She's loving
Very
it.
balanced.
Commissioner Mayfield.
You can, I'm done. I was just going to say I was willing to do it, so.
Okay.
She's still willing to do it. so
Yeah.
that's great.
Okay, so do we have a wrap-up motion?
So it would be the chair and the vice chair would be the members, then the alternates would be Commissioner Mayfield, Commissioner Heatherington, and Commissioner Vargas.
Works, right? Anybody else want to be on it?
I'm open to anything. I'm available.
You
I
want to be it?
set my schedule. I can change my schedule.
I will defer out so that my friend from Indiantown has an opportunity to do it.
Oh, he'll be the member.
You'll be the member?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's Hurd, DiPaolo, and then alternates are Heatherington and Vargas and Mayfield.
Yes.
We good?
Okay, can I have a motion and a
I'd
second?
make that as a motion.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
And then there's one other election, and that is for the chair of the local coordinating board for the transportation disadvantage. That is a quarterly meeting, and the membership of that meeting is pretty much set in state statute. It mirrors what the Commission of Transportation Disadvantaged is in Tallahassee. There has been a member that has voiced interest of being the chair of the LCB, and that is the new member, Mayor DiPaolo, who I do want to welcome him. This is your first board meeting, so my apologies that I didn't bring that up earlier. So he has mentioned that he would be interested in being the LCB chair.
Terrific.
Thank you. Yep.
Need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to nominate Mayor DiPaolo to be on the Transportation Disadvantage Board.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. So that's done. We'll take up number 8B, which is,
Madam Chair,
yes.
excuse me. I had the opportunity to meet a young gentleman this weekend that asked me a very interesting question specifically about the MPO. And I recommended that since we were having a meeting this morning, that if he was able to, he could come to the meeting and ask his own question. But as a high school student, did not get here in time for public comment.
Please
But
join us for public comment. Come up to the podium.
Very young, very
introduce
few
yourself.
high school students asking questions about the MPO.
Really? That was
Totally
very
understand
specific.
that.
So I noticed that you guys.
State your name for the record.
Oh, I'm Parker Besaid. I noticed that you guys put out the transit plan for our county not too long ago, and I noticed that there were quite a few unfunded line items on that. I was just curious on when those line items get their funding, or how they get their funding, and how likely it is for that to happen within either the next year or year and a half.
Really good question.
Excellent question. Ms. Beltran?
I am very excited that you asked questions about the MPO. Not a whole lot of people do that. So thank you. I very much appreciate your interest. And I want to give you a card before you leave. And then, or one of our cards before you leave. So the MPO did develop the transit development plan, but we did it for the county, the Board of County Commissioners, because the county is the one that operates and is in charge of the local public transit system. But because we're a planning agency, they asked us to actually prepare and develop the plan for them. As a result of that, we are going to incorporate those recommendations in our documents, but it is up to the Board of County Commissioners of when those improvements and recommendations get funded and how they get funded. So they do meet on Tuesdays at usually 9 o'clock in this room. I think you all have a meeting tomorrow, and we have some of the county commissioners here. And so we're the planning agency, so we put it together. So it's really up the decision of the Board of County Commissioners, which is the 5-member board that meets in this room. So, thank you. Well, thank you for your question. Thank you.
Did that answer all your questions? Excellent.
Thank you.
Coming to see us. We will now move on to 8B, which is the State Road 710 widening project and Southwest Allapattah Road traffic signal presentation.
Yes, this was a presentation, this is a discussion item, this is a presentation that you all, as a board, requested at your December meeting, and we have Rob Lopez from the FDOT District 4 office to present this item.
Good morning, Mr. Lopez.
Good morning. Let's see, is it on the? I had it up. Yeah, I think first it's a different presentation. First is Allapattah. Is the clicker here too, or you've got that? Hold on.
Ricardo has it.
Was there a new one that?
Yeah, it's up now.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a different one first, so that's good.
Okay.
We're doing the grade separation first? No, we'll do this. We'll start out with this, yeah, so we can get that. Okay, hello, everyone. I think we were asked to give a little bit update on the project number 453333-4. This is State Road 710 widening from Allapattah to Van Buren in Indian Town. You can see on the screen there, this is a little overview of the location. It's located in the village of Indian Town in Martin County, approximately 0.84 miles from Allapattah to Van Buren. Currently today, this segment is a three-lane undivided urban principal arterial with a center left turn lane. Its context classification is C3C, suburban commercial, and it has a posted speed limit of 40 miles per hour. To the south, it is currently a 4-lane facility, and to the north, there are projects currently unfunded in the department's work program to convert that into a 4-lane divided. And we saw this segment was kind of a missing segment in the middle, so this is also being identified to be for added capacity to make it a 4-lane segment. You can see on the screen here overview of the typical section that we're looking at to implement for this segment. You can see, unlike everything to the north or west of Allapattah, which would have a 40-foot median, this segment will only have a 22-foot median to more suit the more urban area within the city of Indian Town. As mentioned before, it'll be widened from 2-lane to 4-lane with an urban roadway section, which is what gives it the smaller median, curb and gutter, and we're looking right now at 10-foot shared use path on both sides to better accommodate the pedestrians and communities within the area. Drainage improvements will be provided on both sides to accommodate the additional impervious area. At the moment, we anticipate we can do this within the existing right-of-way, so no right-of-way is anticipated to be needed for this, this project, for this segment. And also, we will be looking at intersection improvements at County Road 609, Alapata Road, and Indian Wood Drive intersections, and also lighting upgrades along State Road 710 at these intersections, at the signalized intersections. I think one of the main topics that was asked to be discussed was that there was previously a LAP project which was looked at to asked to look at also a traffic signal at Alapata and 710. We pulled up the LAP request, and what you see on the screen here is a summary of the improvements that were requested in that LAP application for milling and resurfacing County Road 609, Alapata Road from 710 to Southwest Minute Maid Road. So as you can see, it's a lot more than just the intersection. It's about 3.6 miles north of that intersection. To include addition of paved shoulders and drainage improvements, addition of a southbound left turn lane at State Road 710 intersection, and possible addition of a traffic signal at State Road 710 intersection, and a traffic signal warrant study for State Road 710 Warfield Boulevard at Southwest Alapata Road intersection, which is not included in the LAP application, but it would be necessary to add a signal at that location. You can also see, in relation to both those corridors, State Road 710 and Southwest Alapata Road, the Terralago Indiantown development. This is a very large development, so it will have an impact on what improvements go into both projects and how those are laid out. As I said, one of the main items that I think everyone wanted to discuss was the signalized intersection. So the next steps that we're looking at to make that determination at a new signalized intersection at Alapata Road is performing a signal warrant study and an intersection control evaluation study at Alapata and 710. From there, FDOT will further explore opportunities to fund the LAP project and coordination between the LAP project and the State Road 710 widening project to determine which improvement best fits in which project, and coordination with the Terralago for potential improvements with permit project. And you can see a little schedule of items there. We're hoping to have the signal warrant study and the intersection control evaluation study completed by June 2025. This will tell us a lot of which project the signalized intersection should be part of, if it's even warranted. And from there, you can see more of the schedule for the widening project of 710. We will have our initial plans ready, the 30% plans, by September 2025 of this year. Our constructability plans by June 2026, bidability plans by March 2027, and production or our design completion date in September 2027. And this project is currently funded for construction with a letting of July 2029.
Just ask, when do you expect the construction to be complete?
Complete something of this magnitude. It's 1 mile, so it'd be over 1 year, a little under 2 years,
So
I would imagine. And it'd probably start late in 2029, so November 29 to November 31 is probably what you'd
I just want people that are listening to think, hey, look, they're finally going to get going on something out here, but we're talking about 2031 to potentially 2030.
be the completion.
Right, well, that's when it'll make have
Yeah.
its impact. So we're still talking 7 years from now.
And does if the signal is warranted, does that go in before?
It would depend. One big determination we have to make is if the signal is warranted based on the regional traffic growth, the existing conditions, or based on the development of Terralago. So if it's If it's based on the, if it's warranted today based on the existing conditions, the department will try to find a way to make it happen as soon as we can. If it's based on the growth over time, then it would probably make sense for it to go in as part of the widening project.
Okay. Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, I have a question. I see here that it says 10-foot shared use path on both sides. What about bicyclists? And how wide would that lane be? How safe?
Well, the 10-foot is considered wide enough for two bicycles to pass by side, so it would be, and it's considered to be wide enough that, a pedestrian could be standing right in the middle of the path, and a bicycle can pass, safely around them without, disrupting the pedestrian and without impeding the bicycle's movement.
Right, I'm concerned about the cars, of course,
But,
and a number of accidents on that boulevard, so.
yeah, the 10-foot shared use path, I mean, it's completely separated from the traffic. So they should be completely separated from the vehicles altogether in that scenario.
Mayor DiPaolo?
Yes. Growth is coming to Indiantown really, really quick. Okay, and 2 years from now, Indiantown won't look anything like it is right now. I can guarantee you that. I would like to see, before the property is sold and somebody plots it out, the corner of Alapata and 710, all that property right there, that's good. That's in the works right now. I think what we ought to do, what I would like to see, is I would like to see Alapata come out at Martin Luther King. If you're going to put a traffic light at Alapata, it would make more sense to bring Alapata Road parallel with Martin Luther King, so one light can handle all lanes of traffic from people going in and coming out of Booker Park also. Because there's a lot of stuff going on in there too. And the population's going to increase in that part of town. So, and I think we need to do that fairly quick, because once that property is sold and once they start planning for developments, it's going to be too late. So I think we ought to look at that now, and I don't know if the county agrees with me, but it makes a whole lot of sense. Because it's coming, and it's coming fast. It's not coming like it came years ago in drips and drabs. Indiantown will triple in population, if not quadruple, within 4 to 5 years. So I think we ought to look at that, because that's something we need to do like right away. So that we can get the land and we can, and I'm sure the developers will help us with the road. They'll put the road in if we give them the intersection. That's what I'm working on. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, so I have a question. Looking at this map here, you said Alapata Road empty into Southwest Dr. MLK Jr. Drive. So in other words, the road would veer over at an angle? Is that what we're envisioning here?
It
on this
would have
vacant
to,
land
yes.
here?
Yeah.
And it would still empty onto Warfield Boulevard also? You have two options? Is that what I'm understanding? As it is right now, it's on Warfield, so then you're proposing to make a second link?
No, just, I think eliminate that section of Alapata and just move it over. So it lines up with Martin Luther King. So you'll have Alapata coming out on 710, Martin Luther King right across from it, and
So it would go across?
you'll have a four-way intersection.
Okay, so it would go across this vacant parcel here, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, before it's platted, before the developers go in there and do their thing. So if we can get the developers even to move the road, and let's give them the traffic light, and let's give them the intersection, and then we can get the developers to do the rest of it. Because they will do it. So it'll save the county money, it'll save the village money, and it'll get done and get done right and get done once.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, and I see this here, but I think my little confusion is Southwest Alapata does empty into Warfield right now, so then you will eliminate that, or that will still exist?
No, that section of road will be gone.
That'll be gone.
Yeah. I mean, the other problem is the speeders on Alapata. Alapata is a racetrack. So having an intersection maybe come out at Mar-a-Lago, would be beneficial to slow traffic down too, because you're talking, 2,500 homes there. People are going to be using that back road.
Ms. Beltran?
Yeah, I would just, I mean, Alapata is a county road, so I will certainly let the county know of all of the comments at this meeting, and they may want to reach out to Taryn and have the staff talk about it. I mean, this is just a new subject, so it's not an MPO road. It's a county road.
Mr. Lopez, do you have anything to add?
No, exactly what Beth just mentioned. It's a county road, so if county makes that determination to do it, I'm sure there's ways the state can partner with them, but it wouldn't be the state's determination to make that. But it makes sense. I can see on the screen what you're referring to, so it's a logical progress of the network.
Okay. Well, this is just a matter for discussion, and we don't need to make a motion.
Correct. It's just a discussion item.
Any further discussion? We will thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
We will move on to 8C, which is the draft 27 through 31 list of project priorities.
Yes, this is an action item, and this comes before you every year. The draft form of the list of project priorities, the final, will come to you in June for approval item. A few years ago, FDOT changed their project where they changed their process where they want to have you all approve a draft in February or by March 1st in order for them to vet the projects to be able to better see what projects are eligible to what kind of funding sources. So hopefully we'll get more projects funded in the draft tentative work program. So it's a good thing that they're asking for the drafts early. Now, this year it's a little different in that there are two draft lists of project priorities. The first one is the roadway list that you all usually see. The second one is a new funding source that came about with the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, and that's the Local Road Safety Program. That project, or that funding source, was kind of looked at the district, and they had several meetings with the MPOs in District 4, which is Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River, and discussed about having a separate list for that funding source, where all of the MPOs at that point said, well, we have our list, there's a safety component for all of our projects. So it doesn't really make sense to have a safety list. So at first, no one had a separate safety list. And then last year, the bigger MPOs, Broward and Palm Beach, had a separate list just for the safety local road program. The smaller MPOs did not. In our case, one of our big, number 3 project, actually, that was the realignment of Martin Highway of 714, where it makes that sharp curve before it intersects with 710. That's a local road, and that had a big, obviously, the reason why we needed it improved was because of safety reasons. And so that's why we didn't want to have another list to take away money from the MPO board's top priority. The first 2 priorities were state roads, so that wasn't an issue. So what the good thing that happened as a result of that in the draft tentative work program that was presented to you all in December, that project got funded for construction that included the safety funds. The local area road, or local road safety money went towards the construction of the realignment of 714. This year, the projects that are towards the top of the list do not qualify for that project. There are a couple on the list that do, but because of that, for the first time, we're having a separate list of project draft list that comes before you in February. So to look at the regular list, I'll go over the roadway list, then after that, we'll talk about the safety list. The regular list, and most of these projects you're familiar with because they stay on the list until they get funded for construction. The first two projects, of course, are the State Road 710 widening. That has been your top priority for the last couple of years because of safety reasons. FDOT broke out that 710 widening project into two different segments in order for it to get funding sooner. The first segment is from the Martin County Okeechobee line to FPL Access Road. The second segment is from the Access Road to Allapattah Road. The third priority is the Southeast Cove Road widening from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. The fourth on this list is the Bascule Bridge in Hobe Sound, the bridge replacement for that project. Number 5 is
Go back to 4. Tell me about this. We just spent a ton of money in the last couple years making replacements of mechanicals on this bridge, and it seems like since we've spent a couple $1 million doing that it should be in good shape for a very long time. Why is it our number 4 priority, and what's bridge replacement going to cost?
Yeah, from what I understand, that bridge is in very bad condition, has been in very bad condition, and that's why it's required so much maintenance. Because it will continue to require a lot of maintenance funds, that's why the county has decided that we really need to replace the bridge. This fund is eligible for special bridge funds, actually, that is not a lot of these other projects are not eligible for that kind of funding, but because of the high maintenance issues that the county wants to eventually replace the bridge. And keep in mind with this list, I mean, if a project were to get funding, that means the first phase of the project, which is the PD&E, will get funding in the 5th year of the next work program. So that's 6 years away. I mean, if a project eventually gets funding of the first phase, that means that project is still probably over 10 years away of being actually constructed. So yes, that bridge has required a lot of maintenance. Recently, from what I understand, but the county eventually wants to replace it. And so that's why, I mean, it's up to you where you all want to put it on the list, but that's why it's number 4 on the list. The number 5 project is the traffic signal that you all were just talking about at 710 and Allapattah. I will let you know that both the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee recommended that be moved up to number 3, and then Cove Road being moved to number 4, and the Bascule Bridge moved down to number 5 because they understand the safety issues in Indiantown, and they were very concerned about that, and they felt like it made sense to have all 3 of those 710 projects together. I will say, based on the presentation that you all just heard, it might be a good idea to leave this as a separate priority on the list. So in case that warranty study comes back and that a traffic signal is warranted, it's clearly still a priority of the MPO board as a standalone project. Number 6 is Southeast Commercial Avenue. That is the road leveling and shoulder widening and resurfacing pedestrian crosswalks along that roadway from Indian Street to Salerno Road. Number 7 is the intersection of US 1 at Palm City Road. Number 8 is Palm City Road improvements, complete street improvements. Number 9 is around this building, actually. It's pedestrian mid-block crosswalks along Monterey and East Ocean Boulevard. That project has gotten some attention the last year because FDOT did do a roadway safety audit along East Ocean, and they presented it to you all, and a few recommendations out of that project are being addressed. For instance, there's going to be a speed study along East Ocean Boulevard from Monterey to the Evans Prairie Bridge, and actually they are going to be evaluating a mid-block crossing between the signals on East Ocean between Monterey and the signal at the gas station, so kind of across from Fresh Market. So that project has gotten some recent attention in the past year. Number 10 is Willoughby Boulevard Extension from Monterey Road to US 1. Number 11 is the widening of High Meadow Avenue from I-95 to State Road 714. Number 12 is resurfacing of Citrus Boulevard from Hemingway Terrace to State Road 710. The next two projects, items 13 and 14, the resurfacing of 609. 13 is resurfacing of 609 from 710 up to just north of Minute Maid Road. And then 14 is the resurfacing just north of Minute Maid to the St. Lucie County line. Those are more recent projects that have been added to the list. I will say during the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, Howard Brown, the representative from Indiantown, talked about that those are priorities. However, they're not near as important as the 710 projects, that those are the ones that they're really focused on. Number 15 is a new project this year. That's the resurfacing of Pomeroy from Kenner Highway to US 1. Number 16 is North Sewells Point Road, East Ocean Boulevard to Palmer Street. That's to mitigate for sea level rise. Number 17 is actually a project that came out of the priority along, can you scroll up a little bit, from Monterey Road and East Ocean Boulevard. That is to move the mast arm that's currently at the corner of Monterey and Southeast Ocean. At the southwest corner, there's a mast arm that blocks the sidewalk. That project was too big of a project to be included or funded through the safety program at the district, and they recommended that it be added to the priority list to get that funded for safety reasons. And then the last item is the dedicated right turn lane on Kenner Highway at South River Drive. So those are the roadway draft list. And as I said, you all have seen most of those projects before. They've been on the list for several years. And then the second list is the local road safety priority list. And these roads are all local roadways that have a federal functional classification that are eligible for safety funds. A couple of these projects are also included on the roadway list that you just heard. Number 2, Commerce Avenue, as well as number 4, the Palm City Road, complete street improvements. The other ones are newer projects on the list. We do have the traffic engineer, the new traffic engineer for the county, Eric Ferguson. He is here to talk a little bit about the Dixie Highway, the number 1 priority from Osprey Street to Gleason Street, to add signal improvements along some intersections along that roadway. And he will talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about the number 3 project. The number 1 project is the one that the county is going to submit the information for, the scoping form and the cost estimates to be able to consider for funding for this cycle. And the other ones will be potentially, hopefully, have some funding for the next cycle. So with that, I want to turn it over to Eric Ferguson to talk a little bit about this new roadway safety list and especially the signal improvements along Dixie Highway.
Commissioner Mayfield, do you have a question before, or would you like to address Mr.
It's
Ferguson?
about the other list, but I can wait, or it's.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, Eric Ferguson, Traffic Engineering Administrator. I've been here about a month. This is a little bit about the program that Beth mentioned. It's only for local roadways, non-FDOT. The funding limitation is it has to be collectors and arterials. What I'm excited about is, traditionally you have a lot of projects on the program that have safety components but are capacity projects, and we really haven't had a good way to fund these sort of projects. A little bit about myself. I was previously the Indian River County traffic engineer. I'm also a longtime Martin County resident. I worked from 2006 to 2014 as a project engineer here. I've lived in Palm City the whole time, so I'm glad to be back. And we put this together pretty quickly, but Indian River County had a unique safety grant for Brightline that had some improvements that nowhere else along Brightline and FEC. No one else has these. So I managed a lot of those improvements, so I hope with this grant to be able to do the same thing here. So that's and when we talked internally, we thought that would be a good fit. South Dixie particular and Hobe Sound, there's a lot of traffic signals that are very close to the FEC.
So this is the project limits. There's 5 intersections. Starting from the south is Gleason. Then we have Cross Rip. I'm sorry, starting south, Gleason and Bridge Road, Petway, Cross Rip, and Osprey. These are the existing conditions that are typical. There's 5 grade crossings. In this area, Dixie Highway is parallel to the FEC. On the right-hand side of the slide, there's engineers, we prefer this as the clear storage distance. That's the distance between Dixie and the railroad gate arms. In this area, it's less than 50 feet at every crossing, which is very problematic if you have a truck, you're towing a landscape trailer. So that's something we really want to look at improving the safety. There's limited turn lanes. There's a combination of signalized and unsignalized intersections. There's a missing sidewalk crossing. Then how we arrived at this is some of the items we've identified are in our current codes are required if we were to build a new traffic signal, and some of them are national best practices. Now I'm going to go through the 5 crossings. I have some photos of each one. I'll describe conditions at each of them. So this is Southeast Gleason. It's unsignalized. There's no turn lanes, and it lacks a sidewalk crossing. Next is Bridge Road. It's signalized. It has left turn lanes on Dixie, and it has a sidewalk crossing on one side. Petway is signalized. It has sidewalk crossings on both sides, no turn lanes. The other thing to note is the traffic signal, the metal arms, mast arms are very slender. They're an older style that most likely if we add additional signal heads and things would not meet the current wind loads. Cross Rip is the next one. It's unsignalized. It has left turn lanes. It has a sidewalk. And the county currently has a traffic signal in design for this location. And we have Osprey. It has sidewalks. It's signalized. It has an eastbound right turn lane. The other thing to note is the signal heads are supported on what we refer to as a span wire. And it's 2 poles, which is about the worst thing for hurricane winds. So now I'm going to talk about the improvements that are proposed at most crossings, the typical improvements. The first is pre-signal. This is an example of Florida, I think it's Florida Street in the city of Stewart. And what you see, this traffic signal where my cursor is closest to you, that reinforces that you're supposed to stop before the tracks. We've found that there's studies that improves the compliance rate of people not driving past the tracks and waiting between Dixie and the tracks. So that's a recommended best practice. And the other thing that this does, what happens today is every time the rail gates start flashing, the traffic signal also turns green to get you off the track if you're on the tracks where you shouldn't be. So you have a condition where, you see red flashing lights and a green traffic light. So what we're able to do with the pre-signal is the one here stays red, and we have traffic signal heads on the other side of the street that are green. And the signal heads that are on the other side of the street, we actually can use heads that you can only see from a certain distance. So the people sitting back, waiting back here will not see the green light. And we get rid of that confusion. And, I think with the trains coming, every second matters. So. Next up, we're proposing battery backups at all our crossings. And this is in our manuals, it's a recommended practice. And the batteries with improvements of technology, you can see the blue boxes here, they've gotten a lot smaller. Traditionally, there was some reluctance. We would have to put separate large cabinets with lead acid batteries, but a lot of the technology in the cars, the cell phone batteries is trickled down to traffic signals. This is something Indian River County implemented at all their crossings. It's pedestrian exit gates. This is 16th, 17th Street in Vero Beach. So what you have is, what can happen if you're a wheelchair or you don't walk fast, you could end up having to wait here when the gates come down. And this provides a route to walk around with a one-way gate that swings out. And in our new manual, this will be required if the train speeds are more than 80 miles per hour. But it's not currently required. And on your right, this is a blow-up of kind of the path, how you walk around the pedestrian gate arm. Next, we're proposing second train warning signs. These signs, they have two modes. There's do not cross for a single train, and then it'll say danger, second train coming. If you look in the photograph here, you can actually see one of them. It says do not cross. This is Oslo Road in Vero Beach. We also have the pedestrian exit route here also. And the primary benefit of these is for pedestrians. Sometimes they'll see a train go by and they think, oh, the gate's broken, it's not coming up. They don't know there's a second train coming, and they may go under the gate. It also can provide benefits to where they're located, drivers can see them too. There have been some cases where down south where a freight train was waiting and people assumed the gate was broken and a right line train came the other direction. So that would help with that. And this is a recommended best national practice. The next improvement in all the traffic signals, we're recommending that we install blank out signs that tell you can't turn when the railroad gates are flashing, because a lot of times the railroad gates are outside your peripheral vision. There's a couple ways we can do that. This is Monterey and Dixie. You can see there's this sort of sign that lights up. The newer signs, we add the word train, which that's kind of the current method. The other, sometimes with the left turn lane, we potentially could change the signal head to a flashing yellow arrow or protected. We can sometimes change to add a red arrow, which will accomplish the same thing as the sign. We've identified two crossings today, Osprey and Petway. What happens when you get the green every time the railroad gates flash, you have a single lane, but you don't have a left turn arrow to tell you the opposing traffic is stopping for you. And you can see on the right, that's Bridge Road that has an arrow today. So that's something we want to look at retrofitting. But of course, it's at both the signals that are structurally don't meet current wind load, so it's difficult to add additional signal heads.
Wait.
Then we're looking at something we're considering is additional pavement marking enhancements. This is stuff we've seen in other parts of the country. On your left, this is in Vero Beach. The entire area between the tracks and US 1 was hatched out. And this is in California. They added wait here pavement messages in the pavement. So we think that might help improve compliance of people stopping before the tracks. Now I'm going to go into a few of the intersections that have unique improvements. Gleason, we're currently evaluating a traffic signal should be installed. With that, we look at the number of trains per day, the number of cars on Dixie, the number of cars crossing Gleason, and based on the number of trains, it's a pretty low threshold where we'd want to install a signal. The other thing we consider is the distance between Dixie and the tracks. The shorter that is, you need less cars to traffic signal to be warranted. And the other thing to note is there's no sidewalk across the tracks today. So that's something we want to address. Cross Rip, we have a traffic signal in design today, so that's. Osprey, we're proposing to add left turn lanes on Dixie. And that would require replacing the entire traffic signal, which today is a span wire. And we would also add a left turn arrow to let you know you have the right of way during track clearance. Our current estimate is $3.2 million. The project has been presented at the TAC meeting. the Citizens Advisory Committee, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And a resolution of support will be requested at the March 11th Board of County Commissioners meeting. So before I take questions and answers, one safety thing I'd like to tell everyone is, on the left, every crossing has a blue sign with an emergency phone number for FEC. If you see like a car broken down on the tracks, the gates aren't working right, the signs are not very big. A lot of people don't know they're there. But this is personally, years ago, for me personally, I was rear-ended and my car was disabled on the tracks. So it's scary. So it's just something I'd like everyone to know about. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, my question was on the project priorities, but first, I appreciated that presentation. I think there's good ideas in there. I think those changes need to be made. Do you want me to wait on the project priorities and finish this first?
This is for both
Okay.
of those. They're priorities on.
Okay, you said the number, Beth, number 15, you said was a new one? Is that new?
The Pomeroy Street, the resurfacing, correct, from Kenner Highway to US 1?
Now, why doesn't that get put at 18? Why does it get put at 15?
Well, if you all want to move it, that's fine. That's, a lot of times if they're, usually resurfacing projects are lower price than some other projects on the list, like a capacity projects like adding lanes or like moving the mast arm in 17. I know the projects below that, for instance, number 16 North Sewell's Point Road, that I think already has a potential funding source, another funding source that the town and the county are working on now. They've been working on that project. Number 17 is a higher cost project, the relocating of the mast arm, and then the South River, the Kenner Highway right turn lane at South River Drive. That one was actually higher up on the list, and then the homeowners association decided not to donate the right-of-way for the right turn lane, and so that's when the board last year moved it down to number 18. So that's why. I guess because Pomeroy Road, it's a new project, so it's lower on the list. That's why it's number 15 of 18. But it is kind of a low-hanging fruit, if you will. Could be more easily have funding.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at number 16 in particular, imagine that, but, so I just wondered why, and I guess it makes sense, but having the cost in there. But just for the record, I think that North Sewell's Point Road, that's not going to get any better, and it is a problem, so.
Okay, I know the county and the town are working on that project now.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes, I want to go through some of these project
Okay.
priorities, but while you're up there, I'm thankful for what you're doing. Florida, right there, that street, I'm on that very often going to Pete's Hardware. And I would echo what you said, with the layers of that initial light does something special there where it keeps you from wanting to enter into the tracks. And I hope that happens at all of these intersections. My question to you would be around Confusion Corner. I don't know if there's any conversation with the city and Mike Mortel, but about deploying similar kind of study and resources into Confusion Corner, because I see that as being an issue in the future, increasingly as trains are ripping through there. Somebody's going to get killed. I know that's our responsibility, but are there similar kinds of conversations happening around the types of improvements like this that you're aware of with the city?
I'm not aware, but I've only been here 4 weeks, so.
Not you, but like Beth.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think the Panal, who is the director of the CRA for the city, who's actually the chair of our Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, I think they have talked about. They've done a master plan to look at areas. Actually, you all had brought that up at your October meeting, I think, about areas around Confusion Corner and how to do possible improvements of that area to make it safer for bicyclists and pedestrians that are going through that, as well as cars that are going through that area and crossing the tracks. But that's the only one I am aware of. When Pinal had presented the Dixie Highway improvement that had MPO TAP funds on it, that subject came up about possibly doing some improvements, not only in Confusion Corner, but on West Ocean Boulevard, and she said that the city is looking at those areas.
Yeah, with another accident that just happened in Jensen, it just seems like, when I look at the comments that happen on Facebook, is you're always seeing people blame residents, But before Brightline, people weren't dying or getting injured en masse like this. So anything we can be doing to try to work jointly together, and with what you're doing to make these intersections safer, I greatly appreciate.
On the safety priorities, the second train coming, we were looking at that county-wide, all crossings potentially. I think it was number.
3 on the safety list.
And the other, in the city of Stewart, not downtown, but Dixie and Alice, the city does have plans that have been ongoing for a while to install traffic signal there. And a left turn lane on Dixie.
With regard to the priorities, I would like to see, if you scroll up, in particular, Palm City Road. I hate seeing that all the way down, at number 7 there. But that increasingly, I think, is a pretty dangerous situation with that area. I'd like to see that find its way up a little higher, would be my ask, if we're prioritizing these.
Sure. And just so you know, just kind of as a side note, because I know we have some brand-new members on the board, but newer members on the board, the main thing is that it's on the list. If it's on the list, that means it's eligible for the federal transportation funds. A lot of times, what determines whether a phase is funded or not is the timing of the project and what funding is available, because the project has to be is only eligible for certain kinds of funding and the timing of the project. So, but it's up to you all how you want to, if you want to move the projects on the list.
Not to pick on the bridge, but, to me, that's more relevant than the bridge. Maybe because I'm a city guy, but that's all.
Commissioner Vargas?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Number 3, which is State Road 710, we discussed that a moment ago, 609 in Alapata. Shouldn't we wait for those improvements if it was proposed that possibly a developer may be doing some improvements?
So it's number 5 now. This is the list.
Right, but it's 3.
That y'all, based on the new projects coming on that y'all approved last June. But yeah, that was just, I was just telling you that was a recommendation from 2 of your advisory committees to move the traffic signal at 710 in Alapata. It's up to you. If you all want to leave it there, that's fine. If you want to move it up, that's fine. It's.
I just think that, if we have a proposal to do something vastly different, I think we ought to maybe put that to the side. And also number 13, I don't know how far out Minute Maid Road is from originally the main
Okay.
intersection that we discussed a moment ago at 609 Alapata. Those are my 2 suggestions. The other thing is number 16, Sewell's Point. They'll be responsible for that. The county will be supervising. Is that what I'm understanding?
I'm not sure, we don't have county staff here, but we have, but I know the county and the town are working on that now. From what I understand, there was this project was available for other grant funds, another kind of grant, and they're working on that. I'm not sure I know the staff of both the county and the town have been working on this.
Right, but
I don't know the
county will not be
details.
paying for this.
I'm sorry?
County will not be paying for the Sewell's Point project.
I don't know what they're deciding on. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a county road, and honestly, there's no way that Sewell's Point could ever, we would need grants and help from the county, because that'll be, at least $10 million or so. Our recurring revenue is $3 million, $3.2 million, so we would need grants and assistance and would love to
So you're
work with the
pursuing the
county.
grants?
Yes, but I just, that's always subject to, can you get them? So it would have to be
Exactly, because we're tight
There's
Yeah.
someone
over
from
here in the county.
Jamie works for the Capital
Hi, I'm
Projects
from
Division.
Capital Projects. Yeah, we've been working on, there was a funding opportunity that just ended, but we'd missed that cycle. We're planning on applying again and getting all our data together for the fall for this one. But in the meantime, we're going to have to do a lot in the pre-design to see how, how much we're going to have to raise the road, what the alternatives are for tying in. But we are looking into that for Sewell's Point.
Okay. I just wanted to make that point,
Okay.
Can't keep coming back to the county.
But
Now,
that's the county road.
I understand that. However, it's Sewell's Point, and I know there's been a bit of contention about that. So, we have to look at that. The other thing is, I want to follow Commissioner Collins' comments about the train. 2 incidents. One was this weekend. It's tragic. And I don't know how the victims are doing right now. I really don't. But unfortunately, that is an extremely dangerous intersection right at Jensen Beach Boulevard where the train is. And that car was practically demolished. I am talking with the department head that deals with streets and asking if we can get lighting in the evening. Here's another circumstance this week that happened. I was notified by one of my constituents. An elderly couple was crossing the intersection of the railroad tracks and got turned around so that they were facing south on one of the tracks. And they're extremely high, my understanding, the rail, so that the car was teetering. And my constituent ran to pull out the lady who was elderly to get her to the sidewalk area as close to the Publix plaza right there. The elderly gentleman was more concerned about his car and what would happen. In the meanwhile, there were folks just watching what was happening right near Krabby's, and she shouted, "Call 911. I saw what you had is the sign, but it's not really visible." So I understand you can make the phone call and they can stop and alert the trains. They called 911, who I assume then called that number or a number, and the trains were halted until the vehicle could be removed. So I'm thinking, this was in the evening, early evening, so I'm thinking that possibly more lighting may be in that center area or somewhere also in addition that can light up the tracks, for more security. But the signs are kind of small. Was there some reason for that?
The size of that sign, it's the Code of Federal Regulations. They set the minimum size, and that's all.
You got the
unfortunately,
minimum.
That's what you get. You get the minimum. Yeah, I looked,
What's the
that's come up-
maximum?
The railroad only has to provide the minimum size. You're not the first person that's brought that up, that the signs are very small, and I did a lot of research, and it's spelled out in the Code of Federal Regulations. That's the size it has to be, and that's what you get. Yeah, lighting longer term at all the crossings there's a safety benefit to it.
It is. So is this something that we could definitely propose for especially at that intersection? I don't know all the intersections in town.
It's something we can talk about. This is the draft list, so that's something that we can talk about. And then when we,
And one of the issues with providing lighting at crossings is we'd have to have support from FEC and Brightline. Most of the time, you're going to have to put lights, poles, or things in their property to do it properly.
On Jensen Beach Boulevard, there is a roundabout where there's some plantings. I believe that's county.
It is.
All right, if that's county, then we just ask ourselves, shall we do it? Yes, we shall do that. You see what I'm saying? So at least it can be more visible. I'm not saying that it could have prevented what happened with this elderly couple, but it might have helped them so that they could see that they can't make such a sharp turn right there. It would have been as if they wanted to go into the back of Ocean Breeze, but they missed it.
Yeah, the other issue you run into is a lot of the railroad crossings are hump, right? Your headlights don't go over, your
Yes.
headlights are blocked seeing the other side. So,
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's something we can look into.
I think this is an immediacy. I don't think it's something that can wait. We've had too many incidents already, just 2 this week, tragically 1 this weekend.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, just a quick question, going back to the project priorities, and Commissioner Collins, you said number 8, you were talking about this Palm City Road, complete street improvements.
7.
Oh, I thought you said 8. My bad.
They would move
If you're just talking about the intersection, I was going to ask what the, I don't go down Palm City Road anymore ever since they cut off the ability to go to Palm City, so I didn't know what the complete streets improvements were referring to, so I
I
was
would
going to ask for
imagine those kind
clarification.
of stay together, correct?
Well, actually, the FDOT recommended that there are two separate projects. We had done a feasibility study a few years ago on the intersection of US 1 and Palm City Road, and as a result of, we had a very big response as far as public input. We had 2 open houses. I think the first open house had over 100 people, and the second had over 80. And as a result of those open houses, the public, a lot of the public recommended improvements along Palm City Road, and a lot of those improvements were a recommendation of a feasibility study that the MPO had done several years prior. But when talking with FDOT, and when we were putting these on the list, because that was one of the recommendations that the city had, was to add it to the priority list, was to break those out into 2 different projects, because the FDOT is responsible for US 1. So they would be, that would be a one-time type of funding that would go towards that project, whereas Palm City Road is a county road in the city of Stuart. So that would take some negotiation between the city and the county of what needed to be done, what recommendations from our feasibility study they would like, what they don't want, that kind of thing. And so that should be a separate project. So that's why they're 2 different projects. They don't necessarily have to stay together on the priority list. It's up to you all how you want to. If you want to move the US 1 Palm City Road higher, it's up to you all.
That was the second half of that project was, one, the alignment and getting onto Palm City Road, and secondarily was slowing traffic down on.
Right, correct.
Right, so I would imagine that should all kind of happen
Okay.
together.
So it was just the slowing down of the traffic for number 8? That's
For
essentially. the
number 8, and to have traffic calming, and to have better pedestrian and bicycle facilities as well.
People fly through there. That's where our cops spend quality time behind Publix.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
got to
right.
sit in with them during the campaign and do ride-alongs, and they sit there and people just fly down that road.
Okay.
It's a racetrack.
Yeah, they do. Now, there'd be a raised bicycle lane?
That was one of the recommendations in the complete street study.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, I just want to touch on some of these project priorities, and this might be for Beth. It would help if there was a lot of backstory. I know we have discussion while we're up here, but for new board members, like if we take the Palm City Road, that's had stuff done more than once, I believe. I don't know if it was done through the MPO or just the city of Stuart, but there's been more than one thing done on that road, for example. So it's nice to have the backstory. So we keep doing, the speed bumps in the road, the signs, how much money do we keep spending at it, and then we just keep removing it and bringing money back to it. So that would just help for the board. And for like the Sewell's Point one for number 16, this might be for Commissioner Mayfield. I believe, is this like stormwater management when they're mitigating for sea level rise impact? Is there any stormwater management on this agenda item?
Yes.
So my question is, I've heard in Sewell's Point, prior stormwater management projects, they're still not working, and I believe there's still flooding issues. My advice would be fixing what's currently an issue before taking on other priorities. I know they're addressing it, I've heard.
Well,
It's been an ongoing issue, I think, for,
that is
for
our
the-
number 1 problem, but that's just due to the fact that it's so low. So, Sewell's Point Road is incredibly low, so it's
Right.
always going to be an issue. As for the ones working, I can tell you 100% the new ones in South Sewell's Point are working. We've been spending a lot of money, making a lot of effort, and they're very successful. So, obviously you cannot stop hurricanes. When there's a hurricane, you're going to get the river in your road. No matter, same with North Sewell's Point, but it's just a problem on a regular storm basis. This isn't just a hurricane problem, and the river
understand.
backs up.
I guess what I'm getting at, if it's the same contractor that designed the original one, and that, I believe, was funded through grant money and I don't know if the county contributed, but if we're going to continue to pay contractors, who's responsible financially for fixing the issue, and who's going to be held accountable? Or is this contractor going to get grant money and taxpayer
So
money?
South Sewell's Point, we own and we do it all. So the county has no association with South Sewell's Point, and that's what I'm referring to when we've had a lot of success down at the end. So we're taking care of all that. North Sewell's Point Road is owned by the county. And it was, I think the last time it was redone was it needed it badly. I don't know, what was that, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago? It got redone and got improved a lot. But nonetheless, sea level rise, whatever you have, it's still a problem and it still comes up. And there's, drainage problems in general. So that, we did not do any, I think we assisted. You'd have to talk to the town
Yeah, I'm
specifically.
not, like I said,
but
I don't know
it was mostly a county project, so.
But I believe it was the same contractor that designed it. And I don't know if it's the same contractor on this one, but I know there's been issues with flooding and stuff, and it's being addressed now.
I don't know about, like I said, it's a total county. If you're talking about anything you've heard lately, that's all our stuff, and that is not related to whoever did anything that's on North Sewell's Point Road. Or if anything was done by Sewell's Point, it was minor. South Sewell's Point, working well, successful project. North Sewell's Point has been an issue for a while, and that's why we're trying to work together.
And it wasn't there was no projects with grant money?
South Sewell's Point is like predominantly all grant money.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's see if we can get back to the agenda item.
thank you.
Mr. Zama?
Yeah, no, George Zama is the Deputy Director of Public Works for the county, and he has been one of the ones working with the staff of the town of Sewell's Point on this road. So I didn't know if he would be helpful to address any questions on this project. Or if you all want to keep talking about this one or go on to talk about the list.
Just to clarify, so George Zama, Martin County Public Works Deputy Director. North Sewell's Point Road, it's good to have on this list because it's a federal aid eligible roadway. So we're looking to seek FHWA grant opportunities for this road. The town of Sewell's Point has been successful with FEMA HMGP grants, that's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program grants. Those are non-federal aid eligible roadways. So for those of you that don't know, FEMA is usually the funding of last resort. And so this is a different type of roadway, so it's not necessarily apples to apples. So the town, I know, is actively seeking a joint partnership for North Sewell's Point Road, but it's not the same type of roadway. So there was no interlocal agreement executed for the partnership in obtaining a HMGP grant. So the county is going to maintain its position on HMGP and this list, and as well as seek potential funding opportunities with Florida Department of Environmental Protection Resilience Grant Program, which they fund raising roadways, and we've been successful in other roadway projects, much like MacArthur Boulevard, which was on this list at one point. So it's good just to keep these projects identified as a need. So that's why we continue to propose keeping it on this list.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further questions? Is there a motion to approve these priorities?
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Let's keep going. Let's take up agenda number 8D, which is the Florida Department of Transportation Monterey Road at the FEC Railroad Crossing Grade Separation Project.
Yes, this is another discussion item that the board requested at its last meeting in December, and we have FDOT District 4, Rob Lopez here, as well as the consultant, to give you all a project update on this.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Here to talk to you about the PD&E study that's underway right now for State Road 714, Monterey Road at the FEC Railroad Crossing. Okay, and again, I'll just give you a quick highlight, what a PD&E study is. PD&E studies are performed to determine the best alternative to address purpose and a need. Purpose and need to evaluate potential environmental, social effects, and to include public participation to help shape the project and to comply with federal, state, and local laws. As you can see in the slide in front of you, PD&E process is one part of the overall transportation development process to take a project from planning to construction. You can see slide in front of you also, PD&E process is essentially broken into five stages: data collection, developing the alternatives, engineering analysis, alternative environmental analysis, and final documents. Right now, for the project that we're about to talk to you about, we are still in the stage of data collection and developing the alternatives. This slide depicts our project schedule. We're working with Director Andrew McBean to meet with the Witham Airport. We're expecting this to occur within the next few weeks and conduct other stakeholder meetings as well in March. Our alternative meeting is tentatively scheduled for the end of the year, and the public hearing is tentatively scheduled for 2026. You can see in front of you the FDOT compass, and as you can see, community feedback is at the core of all we do. FDOT works with the public to support and balance community vision with the community's transportation needs. This is routine on all of our projects to ensure Florida's infrastructure is safe, resilient, and efficient for many years into the future. Our public engagement is a multifaceted program. This program is not just a policy or procedure, but a process, and we will move through this process with openness, honesty, fairness, and objectivity. The engagement will continue throughout the life of the project. As you can see from the slide there, you can see the engagement includes not just meetings, but we try to use as much outreach as possible, including newsletters, project website, and social media. Okay, as we said, one important milestone of the PD&E process was our kickoff meeting, which was completed in December 4th, 2024. Letters were sent to all property owners and tenants within at least 300 feet of either side of the proposed project, and to other public officials, regulatory agencies, organizations, and individuals interested in the project. This is the standard minimum distance used on DOT projects and targets those that live and/or own property adjacent to the project corridor impacted. Newspaper ad, FAR ads, flyers, and letters were also sent to advertise the project and promote the website so the community can provide their feedback. 45 people registered, 18 attended in person, and 28 attended virtually. The virtual kickoff meeting started at 5:30. It was followed by the in-person kickoff meeting, which began at 6:30 p.m. The same information was presented at both the virtual and in-person meeting. Geofencing was a new method that was used. This is a technology that creates a virtual geographic boundary around an area to detect connected devices. This allowed FDOT to connect with regular users of a specific transportation facility. For this project, geofencing was used to inform the commuters. South Florida Commuter Services assisted with we ran Facebook ads. It was optimized for link clicks, targeting commuters residing in locations likely to be impacted by the project. And the ads ran from November 27th to December 4th. And a Facebook performance summary is also available on this slide. You can see right here a quick overview of performance. As we said, it looks like we've had a fair amount of interest in the project overall, but based on both the Facebook performance summary and the number of people that attended the in-person and virtual kickoff meeting. The project location is located just down the street of where we are today. While the focus of the project will be to address the intersection of State Road 714 at the FEC Railroad crossing, the project study area of influence also extends beyond this location along 714 from State Road 76, Canner Highway, to Southeast Flying Fortress Lane. Operational safety improvements will be examined in critical locations within this entire area of influence. So again, as you can see, we're looking at the grade crossing at Dixie and Monterey, but we're going to look at how that impacts the entire corridor within the boundaries you see in front of you. State Road 714 Monterey Road is part of an evacuation route, and we believe the at-grade separation alternative at this project location would allow traffic to flow through the location without potential of being stopped by the signal at County Road A1A. Also, which we'll discuss further, improvements to the south would be expected to split the traffic to reduce the demand on the project location. We are in preliminary stages of the traffic and safety analysis. But again, part of this is just to remind you, this is not just about capacity, but also about reliability of the network, and specifically reliability of the network to support evacuation. And not just evacuation due to hurricanes or other disasters, but also for regular day-to-day incidents such as hospitals, medical, emergency, and fire. There are several hospitals, medical facilities, fire, and police within the area. A grade-separated alternative at the project location would pull State Road 714 Monterey Road traffic out of the intersection with County Road A1A. If an emergency vehicle were to utilize 714, it would not be inhibited by a train. Likewise, if the improvements to the south, which we'll talk about later, are implemented, an emergency vehicle could use this improvement to head to the hospital. This is a slightly different situation than the evacuation that we spoke earlier. And now I just wanted to try to compile that together and show you that in a more data format. I think Margie
Yep, I'm right here.
kind of helped us put together a little bit of data, and maybe you can give us a quick overview.
Yep,
Just tell me when you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, just we've been working with FDOT on this. Margie Tamblin is the senior planner for the MPO, and after the last meeting, she reached out to the fire rescue department, who provided her some data about their fire rescue vehicles using this intersection.
So all the dots that you see on the map here are basically an origin point for a trip that took place to Martin North Hospital. So you can see on the left are the purple dots that are to the west of the FEC, and then to the right are the green dots that are to the east of the FEC. And about 66% of those dots or origin points for trips to Martin North took place to the west of that. So there's about 48,000 points, and then 66% of those, so 32,000 roughly, were to the west of the FEC. And here's a little heat map to kind of show you where the rides are coming from, or the trip originations are coming from that head to Martin North. And yeah. And then a closer look at Stewart and, Palm City, Jensen Beach, whatnot, the island, and kind of where those trips are coming from. You can see the black line is the FEC. It's a little hard to see, but it's there.
Yeah, and I think this map really highlights how isolated kind of the community just north of the airport and between the lagoon is, and how dependent they are on specifically, this one intersection, both Ocean Boulevard and Monterey, for access.
Oh, and as a note as well, I kind of tried to get some background information on how trips or trip routes are planned for trips to Martin North, and it depends on the closest available unit and then also hospital capabilities. So Cleveland Clinic Martin North is a primary stroke center and also a place where they receive people that are, have had a heart attack. They have a cardiac catheterization lab there. And then Martin South has a primary stroke center as well, and then an orthopedic care facility. So obviously, if you have a stroke, you would want to get to the hospital as quickly as you can. And if there's some kind of issue to stop you from getting there, or a train derailment, whatnot, it would be very important to have some kind of grade separation there to get across and to survive.
Tony, you want to add anything to that, or? Okay, then I'll now turn it over to, we have the consultant doing the study for us. Tanya, she'll give you a little bit more information about some of the alternatives that we're trying to look at right now.
Good morning.
Morning.
When we were here last February, we presented 9 alternatives. The first 8 you see here on this slide. We considered elevating the through movement. In addition to these, I should mention, elevating the through movement while keeping the turning movement at grade. However, when we met with FEC, they had indicated if the through movement is elevated, even the pedestrians would also have to be elevated. So we weren't able to explore that option beyond that conversation. Additionally, on the left is the 9th concept that we had presented last February. Since then, we've added the 10th. Now, you'll notice, looking at the 9th concept, that we had a total of 3 bridges over FEC. One that was carrying the through lanes, and then 2 that were ramps. Again, FEC indicated that this would need to be a single structure crossing over the railroad, so that helped develop concept 10. So you can see we just have that one crossing over FEC, and that has to do with site safety for the rail line itself. In addition, FEC will consider this location a new crossing, so they would want to have 2 other mainline crossings be eliminated. So they did mention that the spur that you see going towards the airport would be considered one of those crossings. So we would just need one other that would be considered mainline to accommodate the 2 closings that they're requesting.
I'm sorry, and sorry to interrupt you. Just to clarify, numbers 9 and 10, that is a Monterey extension to the
Yes,
south.
they are to the south.
To the south of, it's not the Monterey-Dixie
So-
Beach Road intersection. It's the one to the south, Monterey Extension Grumman, that goes over the tracks.
So here's the Monterey FEC, what we're looking at for the other 9, or the other 8 alternatives, and then these 2 are moved to the south. So we did what is referred to as a desktop review of those 10 concepts, and we were providing the matrix here, is based upon engineering items, parcel encroachments, meaning number of parcels, not anything associated with dollar figures, just truly just a count. In environmental items, I won't read to you every single line item. I'll let you have a moment to kind of review the matrix before I move on.
You can ask any questions right
Yeah,
now.
any point in
also
time.
About the matrix.
Any questions? Proceed.
Okay, so these are the 3 concepts that we'd like to move to Tier 2. I do want to note with Concept 8, we would not recommend tunneling, but going with a more traditional construction. Also, I want to point out on this concept, this is similar to the recommendation that can be found in the August 10th, 2017 FEC Rail Grade Separation Feasibility Study Report that was prepared on behalf of the MPO. Again, we want to build upon work that has already been done at this location. So we wanted to have this one move forward as well as the other 2 that you see here. We also realized, given the location of Witham Field, we realized that some adjustments may need to be made, and we'll touch upon that in a moment. Some things that we do want to point out and consider, one, and this is for all concepts, is that Palm Beach connection. So you have that 5 kind of legged intersection right now. And some of the options that we've been looking at is, should we allow that connections to still exist as it does currently, or if the connection directly at that intersection be removed so it's no longer 5-legged, and therefore a car would have to, drive up to the next intersection and take a right to get to Palm Beach Road. So again, feel free to provide us any input that you feel about that. We're interested to hear from you. And then also with Concept 8, we realize that loop ramp, again, it's right there with Witham Field. we realize that that may be affected once we have our meeting with the airport. And obviously, the no-bill alternative is considered throughout the life of the PD&E process. The other item I wanted to address is the area from Federal Highway to County Road A1A on Monterey Road. As you can see, there is a crash heat map on the upper left corner, and the segment between Federal Highway and A1A is considered a high-density crash area. Along this segment of roadway, there is one of the 3 major driveways into the Stewart Center Shopping Center. And that driveway does have a notable number of crashes, which you can see in that main area here. Now, the existing condition is a 2-way left turn lane. And also, we are very close to the intersection with Federal Highway. And just something to note that the Federal Highway intersection is expected in 2050 to have a level of service, this is for the no build, to be an F, and that's both in the AM and the PM peak. So any improvement that we do to the intersection of Federal Highway will affect the operations of the driveway intersection, obviously. And as you can see in this slide to the picture to the right, there are a number of potential movements at that driveway, so that increases the number of conflict points. And when you're looking at, when you actually are in that driveway, it's intended to be a right in, right out, but that's not how it operates. There's enough width there that the movements that I'm showing are actually what's occurring. So, as we mentioned, we're in our early stages of the safety analysis, but some of the potential solutions that we're investigating are a traffic separator along 714, potentially utilizing an access road in conjunction with a grade separation, and then a right in, right out driveway. You good? Again, we're working with Director McBean to schedule a meeting to discuss all of the concepts. We realize that we may start out with a concept that looks as you see on this slide, but due to considerations with Witham Airfield, we may need to shift away from the airport to a concept like this. Please note, the concept that you're looking at now is not written in stone. It is simply just a graphical representation that we understand the importance of Witham Airfield and that it may require some modifications to the concept. So please don't take it that, oh yeah, this is the concept that we're going to go with. I was just trying to show, like, hey, we realize things may need to adjust once we meet with the airport. And as I mentioned earlier, as part of the NEPA process, we will analyze each alternative from an engineering and environmental aspect. This includes social, cultural, physical, and the natural environment.
And Collins has a question for you.
So one of our city commissioners lives in one of the houses that you've erased there with your road. Commissioner Clark, I don't think would appreciate what you've done there. For me personally, I know we'll all have comments on this, but I don't want to see anything that looks more like Fort Lauderdale or down south here. I don't want to see bridges and tunnels, and I don't want to see neighborhoods getting erased. So I don't know. Something needs to happen here. Part of the conversation that I don't think was mentioned in your review is the freestanding ERs. The city just approved one. I think you're going to start to see more of that happening to take some of the pressure off of everybody from this now very urbanized area being on Cleveland. I think you're going to start seeing more of these freestanding ERs to help take the pressure off. But those are my comments.
How did you select the configuration for that new road over the existing houses?
Again, this is just
Are you referring to
like going
this?
from there to
Yeah,
to there.
yeah.
Again, it was just a graphical representation. If I shifted everything, where would my next connection be? That
We're
was all
basically
really.
just showing, this is kind of how we have it set up right now
Yeah.
with the minimal impact. Obviously, we're just saying after talking to the airport, they're probably going to want us to move it to.
Why?
Of course they do.
Because
why?
there are,
They are within they have valid safety zones right now. So why would you think they would want to shift that
Oh.
road north?
okay, so right now, everything's at grade. You have certain approach slopes, departure slopes, and surfaces that come up from the airport for safety for the airplanes. As I'm going, in order for me to go over the railroad, my minimum over the railroad is 23 feet above that railroad. So that means the bottom of my bridge is 23 feet. So now I have the structure of the bridge and then the roadway.
Yeah, I get it.
Right? So I'm on bridge here. I'm still coming down in elevation. So if I were to go
Yeah.
back, so if I'm on elevation here, the concern is where am I height-wise?
Sure.
So that's the only reason
I mean,
why
this-
we're saying that.
This might make it through the airport.
Correct.
But we're anticipating they probably will request us to
Okay,
adjust.
I agree with you.
Is-
And looking at the airport and with all of its safety requirements and slope requirements, that is another reason why we did look at the concept to the south. Because it pulls us away from not only the neighborhood, because we know that's an important aspect, but it also pulls us away from some of those slope issues at the current location. And we also knew that the airport wanted to have improvement to their entrance. So we kind of adjusted that concept so that if they did want those improvements to their entrance, we could accommodate that as well.
As you guys start dialing this in, is there something in between those two that you could
It could be.
put out to where you just, by the skin of your teeth, make it happen without having to, chew into those neighborhoods more?
It
Yeah.
could. We're showing two extremes. One is the minimal impact of the grade separation and something is what we anticipate. This is probably the worst case for this one alternative of what it could turn into.
Ms. Beltran?
Yes, I just had a question. If you go back a slide, when looking at 9 and 10, or the new 10, go forward. You were talking about the intersection of in a few years, it looks like the intersection of US 1 and Monterey Road would be failing.
No build in the no.
If in the no bill, correct. So the alternatives 9 and 10 would take away, are you looking at how much traffic it would take away from the intersection of, if the intersection to the north? I mean, so how many people, not just to cross the tracks, but just in their regular, the train isn't coming, looking at the traffic of how much it would take away from that intersection?
Yeah, as part of the traffic and safety analysis, that's all looking at how, if this was to move forward, how does traffic get redistributed within the network? So,
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, thank you. I really like alternative 10. I too also don't love the idea of our overpass. I just really fundamentally doesn't seem to fit in with 160,000 population Martin County, but I understand the evacuation thing, but I really like 10. I really like moving it south. I think it makes a lot of sense. That whole area is more industrial. And then you also asked for input on the Palm Beach Road. I say do not take that out. I think that gets utilized a lot and helps that intersection disperse well. I think if you put it to the next little intersection, isn't that only like super, super close? I think it would just back up. I'm not an expert, but that's kind of what I think. It flows well right now, is my opinion.
okay.
And then I love the changes to the shopping plaza. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves in this county is that shopping plaza
Everybody.
turning left. So I love that.
As for the Southeast Palm Beach Road, we were somewhat assuming if we move the entrance to that Southeast Christie.
Which one's Christie?
It's the very next one.
This-
like-
Yeah. No, I think that would get, isn't that the one where people go on now when they're coming off Palm Beach Road?
I'm sorry. Right now, both of those, Southeast Palm Beach and Christie, are both one-way pairs. So one-way pairs can be a little bit confusing to operate, so we were thinking to truncate them together.
I guess I don't know what you mean by one-way pair.
One-way means you can only go.
I mean, I know what one, one way. You said one-way, right now they're one-way
One
pairs.
of those two, one goes north.
Oh, yeah, and the other, okay. Gotcha.
So it kind of creates we're looking at it more carefully, but
Okay.
that's the,
I'm just saying I like it how it is with that setup.
right?
You asked for our input, that was mine.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, I think everybody's an expert who has driven those roads, so I will say that, and give that to you. Yes, I do agree with Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Mayfield that Stewart is not the place to have bridges and tunnels. I grew up in South Florida. That's the place to have it, and it's expressways upon expressways and tunnels. I'm thinking of Fort Lauderdale, and it moves the traffic along, but we are not those places. I like the idea of further south, more industrial, and then to figure out that piece of turning this way, that way, anyway, but up, trying to get into that shopping center. I understand about the severity of crashes there, and we really need to eliminate that, but it's not to build bridges and tunnels, so.
We're just taking notes.
Let's see.
Thank you.
Mayor DiPaolo?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the bridge there. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think the airport's going to be able to, FAA's even going to let it happen. You would have to move the threshold of that runway, and that runway there is the longest runway on Witham Field. So you get some pretty good-sized aircraft coming in there, and they're going to need that whole runway to stop. So I think it would be I don't want to say dangerous, but it wouldn't be a ideal situation. Has anybody ever looked at putting a train under the road?
That's what, number 8 is depressed. to me
Okay.
already.
I like that. That way you don't see it.
For the train or for the traffic?
The traffic,
Traffic,
we
not the train.
can't,
Talking
we can't
about
control the train, we can control the traffic.
Commissioner Collins?
Yeah, I would just like to say that this is the direct effect, and this is going to be pointed this way. This is the direct effect of overdevelopment. And I wish Commissioner Hetherington was here, because when we develop and overdevelop and urbanize this beautiful little county, this is the kind of thing that starts to happen, right? We created this mess, not all of us who are newer. But Newfield is a good example. When you approve 12,000 new humans where there's cows, this is the end result, is you start having to urbanize and build bridges and tunnels. And if the average human being that lived here understood that we were even talking about this, I think you'd have pitchforks out there. Because that's not why they live here. They don't want this kind of a thing. So,
Commissioner Reed?
I'll get off my soapbox.
Yes, I just want a clarification on page 14 for the existing conditions and the proposed conditions for the plaza. Let's see.
This one, this is.
Yes. So the one on the right says existing, but I don't think you can currently come out left with.
You're not supposed to be able to.
Because there's a sign.
But
Gotcha, so people do it anyway.
and that's what I was saying, it's so wide and it's intended to not allow, but I've actually been there and witnessed people taking the left.
And then the proposed changes would be.
Where we tighten up, where you couldn't take a left,
haven't-
you'd
we
have to
haven't
take a
fully
right. That's
developed
one of the ones that we'd be looking at. When I say right in, right out, it would mean like that driveway, you could only
you can
go
only go
right
right
in
or
and go
turn.
right out. Looking at, like I said, at potentially putting a median, a blocked median along 714. And then again, with grade separated, what we're contemplating the use of an access road. So again, you would utilize that access road instead of coming right onto 714.
And then on this slide for the 2050 no build, it would be rated as an F.
The intersection at Monterey and Federal Highway.
What is it currently now?
I want to say it is I think at the peak, I think it's a D, but I have to double check. I can follow that up.
I was just curious.
Send it to you.
It's bad now. So, all right, thank you.
All right, let's wrap up. Let's take a 10-minute break for the closed captioning, and we'll wrap up quickly when we come back. Thank you.
I think the last thing was just.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. This is it.
produced and did everything.
When I depart?
Yes, we will.
We can stop at 11:30.
Only got 4 or 5 more things to go.
That's right.
Make us live. We are. All right, let's take up number 8E, safety performance targets for 2025.
Yes, you all see this item every year in February. It's the annual safety targets, and this is the MPO adopting the state's Vision Zero for the 5 federal highway safety targets. This became a requirement a few years ago, and of the 27 MPOs in Florida, almost all of them, I think 25 of them, adopt the state's Vision Zero safety targets for the roadways. So staff is recommending approval of this item. This is a federal requirement that we adopt this on an annual basis, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about Vision Zero? Any feelings about adopting FDOT's Vision Zero targets?
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Excellent. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Well, shall we take up 8F?
Yes, this is an approval item also. This is the Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP program application. This is a federal funding source that comes before you every year. The MPO sent out a call for projects before the holidays, and we got one application from the Martin County, and we have staff from the Capital Projects Division to present this item.
Hello, I'm Jamie Polidora. I'm from Capital Projects, and I'm here to present on the Fisherman's Cove Sidewalk Project for the 2025 FDOT Transportation Alternatives Cycle. Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program is a reimbursable federal aid program administered by FDOT. It supports smaller scale, non-traditional transportation projects, activities that expand and integrate accessible non-motorized travel choices, safe routes for non-drivers, accessibility improvements for ADA. These non-traditional projects could include on and off system bicycle and pedestrian facilities, accessibility improvements with ADA compliance, and recreational trails. So the project we're talking about today is in Fisherman's Cove. This neighborhood is located just east of South Canner Highway and south of Southeast Indian Street. The neighborhood has three main entrances adjacent to Canner Highway, which is a major arterial. There are no sidewalks within the community and no connection to the existing sidewalk on Canner Highway. Fisherman Cove's residents have identified critical safety concerns within the neighborhood for pedestrians and children walking with no sidewalk or buffer from vehicular traffic. The proposed project will improve by providing safe ADA-compliant points to Canner Highway for pedestrian, bicyclists, and non-drivers. The areas we are looking to connect to, as you can see, Fisherman's Cove, here's an image from Southeast Cayuga Street and Canner Highway. There are no existing sidewalks. In addition to middle and high school bus stops, there's also within 1 mile an elementary school, less than a half a mile to a major medical facility, 700 feet from the Kiplinger Nature Preserve, a mile from the Marty Transit Stop, and under 2 miles to a major shopping plaza with a grocery store. Here we have the project location map. The north-south road, we have Southeast Geneva Drive and a little section of Southeast Ontario Drive. And east-west, so these are the three connecting streets. We have Southeast Tahoe Terrace to the south, Southeast Norfolk Boulevard in the center, and Southeast Cayuga Terrace to the north. So these red lines represent where we're proposing the sidewalk within the neighborhood. The project scope is a new 6-foot wide sidewalk linking Geneva Drive and side streets to the existing Southeast Canner sidewalk. It's a little bit over 4,700 linear feet of sidewalk proposed, and a combination of piped and swale drainage improvements will go along with the sidewalk work. New crosswalks and connection points will also be included, along with updated signing and pavement markings and ADA-compliant curb ramps. This image shows the existing conditions at the intersection of Northeast Norfolk Boulevard and Geneva Drive. As you can see, there are no crosswalks, no curb ramps, and no existing sidewalks. We also have another image. This is on Geneva Drive itself. And as you can see, vehicles are parked across where a potential sidewalk could go. So along with this project, we would have, we've already had one public meeting, but we would have another public meeting where we'd emphasize education on county right-of-way and proper places to park if the sidewalk does get installed. So we have the existing and proposed typical section. We have two alternatives. One is swaled, one is piped. The swale section you can see here. So within the right-of-way, no changes to the roadway. We would propose a swale, a sidewalk, and a small tie-in portion beyond the sidewalk to the right-of-way line. The other alternative would be for the pipe sections, and we would have, same thing at the right-of-way line, we would have the small tie-in section, the sidewalk, but instead of just an open swale, we would have pipe drainage in these sections. For the funding allocation, the total construction cost estimate is a little over 1.3 million, with the grant requested funds of 1.272261 and an estimated local funds of 35,000. In terms of local support, the project has presented at the following public meetings. We had a meeting at the Fisherman's Cove Neighborhood Association on January 14th of this year, and the residents showed support for the sidewalk project. We also presented to the TAC meeting on February 3rd, the CAC meeting on February 5th, BPAC on February 10th, and today at the Policy Board. Another note is that a resolution of support was heard by the Board of County Commissioners at the December 10th meeting from 2024. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Commissioner Vargas?
Is there other grant funding to make up the difference of 35,000?
That's the small portion that is, that needs to be handled by the county. It varies based on different grant sources, what it is. I'm not, I don't remember exactly what this 35,000 was from, but typically if we can find other grant sources, we will. But I think this is a non-participating portion of the funding.
Okay, so are you the one that continues to look for grants that may be available?
Yeah, our department will, yes.
That would be a good idea.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed, sorry.
Yes, my question, and this might be for the county, so in your land development code with this picture on Geneva Drive, for the residents that are affected for parking, would they be able to put in a extension for their driveway to add another parking space so they wouldn't be blocking the sidewalk? I don't know how it's written in the land development code for the county.
Don't know.
Or do they just lose a parking space over a sidewalk? I don't know if that was thought about. I don't know how many other houses or, I guess my mic wasn't on. Yeah, I didn't know if there was anything in the land development code for it, or you just simply lose a parking space as a resident, and I didn't know how many people would be affected in that neighborhood. I'd be upset if I lost a parking space and I had a family there and I was told, oh, sorry, you can't park. Guess what? You park in the grass areas, code enforcement coming by and telling you can't park there all of a sudden
Good question.
as
Well,
well.
it's county right away.
I understand that, but currently as it is, you have a driveway and you're parked in it, and all of a sudden you're gonna lose it overnight, and I don't know how many people it affects. I'd be upset if I owned a house there.
It did come up at the public meeting, and
And what were they,
it is part of the education of it that it is county right-of-way. I don't think we'd be able to extend their driveway out towards the road because
I
of
understand that.
the limit of the right-of-way.
George Zama, Martin County Public Works Deputy Director. So, as mentioned, it is in the right-of-way, and the county can utilize the right-of-way for safety purposes, and in this case, pedestrian safety. So the property owners typically utilize the right-of-way portion of the driveways. We understand that. There are maximum widths. I don't know the maximum width off the top of my head. I think it's upwards of 25 to 30 feet. I think it's more like 30 feet width for a driveway. So the driveways can be widened by the property owner if they wish to park additional vehicles on their property.
Who reached out to you guys to do this?
The community itself. We've gotten several requests over the years, and so in response to the community's request, we proposed this project.
In that public meeting, did they understand that this would be a side effect of that?
Yes.
what was the?
And we don't have the final design on which side of it's only going to, the sidewalk's only going to go on one side of the road for each of the main streets. So we don't have that finalized. We have a draft of what we expect it to be.
And are you
But
going to
yeah.
present that to that neighborhood again? before
Yes,
you-
well, once it goes into full design, we'll have a design and we'll have a side picked for each, and then we'll have another public meeting at that point.
This has been, this is becoming more frequent in a lot of the neighborhoods where there are a lot of vehicles staged in parking spaces and even in the right-of-way portion. We're looking at other ways to accommodate this, and including possibly moving the sidewalk a little closer to the road. But there are, the Martin County standard is 4.5. If the sidewalk is flush to the roadway, it's a minimum of 4.5 feet separation from the edge of pavement. So it creates, an obstacle. When you start adding curbing, you can't just add a curb everywhere. You need certain slopes to the roadway for that to function. So it does make it a little difficult. So it's a compromise. So it's the thing for this project is we've scoped the project. We've scoped it with drainage in the grant. So once it does get into the work program, then we could get into the design and see how we can accommodate this.
And I think, obviously, I think the homeowners are aware of the right-of-way. And I think this is going to be a countywide issue. I know at the last MPO meeting, we voted on by South Street, and that might be another issue. And I think there's going to be more neighborhoods that this is going to be an issue in. That's where I think it should be addressed potentially in the land development code for Martin County. So at least the residents could extend their driveway, because they're going to be affected. It's a given. So I think it should be looked at, countywide, instead of it just popping up in neighborhoods, because it's going to affect every neighborhood, especially the older neighborhoods. The newer development, I would imagine they have more options for the residents, to where if you did add a sidewalk, it's not going to affect the newer developments. But these older ones, it's definitely going to affect them. So that's where I stand on it. I personally don't support it unless it was further looked in for my issue.
It's on their.
I understand it's for
on their
funding.
plats.
I understand that.
So they
But
know,
coming
they
in there
should
and-
know
I
that that's
understand.
a right of way.
I understand.
Commissioner Collins.
This current item, again, is purely centered around the grant application, correct?
Yes.
This is not finalizing this. So this will come back again,
Yes.
or we'll come to the county.
Right, yes. This is well, to kind of give you the big picture, with Transportation Alternatives Program, it goes through the MPO process because it's a federal funding source, and the MPO prioritizes the applications that every cycle for the TAP program. In our county, we usually only have one application, so it's to prioritize the project. It's not, obviously to give comments as well, but it's to prioritize the project, because
The actual approval of,
the other MPOs, like Broward, they may have like 40 applications in 1
the
year.
actual approval of the project will go in front of the county?
Oh, correct. It's a
This
county
is really
project.
our
The county is applying for this project, correct.
Strictly funding.
Yeah, this is all really good feedback. When we've, the staff, when they present, the county does a lot of public involvement meetings for their projects. And actually, one of the first few slides now is that education of, this is the right of way. This is what it is. You don't own all the way up to the roadway. So we're starting to educate. We start with that education component of the project. And we had a sister project that went through the same program, the TAP program in Avalon Sidewalk and Hibiscus Park. We actually moved the sidewalk on each side of the street several times, going through iterations. We want to get it right with this one before we go too far into design. But it was having several conversations with the property owners and the neighbors in the area, and
Is that something you
so-
have in writing?
And
what's that?
That the neighborhood was asking for this kind of a thing?
We have a request for service system, so we have requests over the years for sidewalk in the area. So we have a log of requests.
But more recently that initiated this, when did this happen? When did this request come in recently?
From the MPO standpoint, we advertised a call for projects, and sometimes the city responds, sometimes the county responds. This year, sometimes they both respond. This particular year, only the county responded, and it was with this application. Part of the application process isn't to include, there's obviously a public involvement component that
This was
George
a
was just
county
talking
priority,
about.
not a
I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to talk if someone's interrupting me, so let me finish and then I'll turn it over to you if that's okay, Madam Chair. So this year only, we had, over $4 million available from this funding source. We only got one application. It was from the county. Part of the application process is for them to do a public involvement is part of that, and that's what George and Jamie have been talking to. The other part is to have their board, the Board of County Commissioners, approve a resolution. And the city does the same thing. When they apply for a TAP grant, and they have a responsibility to do a public involvement process as part of that grant application, as well as get the city commission to approve a resolution. And then it goes through the MPO process. And like I said, our MPO usually gets one project every year, so it's not hard to prioritize the application. I mean, obviously, there's input from all the committees as well as the MPO board for the project, but it's the main thing, the main reason why it goes through is to make sure it's prioritized. Broward has like almost 40 applications every year because they have so many cities, they have so many local governments. We are in a situation where we don't have as many local governments, so that's the MPO process. So as far as how long this has been a priority, I know for the county, or how many requests for services they've gotten, or their list of sidewalks for improvements that they have, I mean, that's a county issue. That's not part of the MPO process. We're the ones we're the coordinator of the applications that come through, whether they're from the city or from the county.
Correct, but this is a mixed body here of different municipalities, and other than the county, I mean, it's something we're voting on. The background of why this is an important project is important, and that's why I was trying to discern between, when it was presented, it sounded like the neighborhood was reaching out for this, but it seems more like this was a county priority, and then we're also we're gonna do public meetings to let the neighborhood know, but it wasn't necessarily that the neighborhood, this was an issue that they've been reaching out for recently to have this done.
I can add to that. So the public meeting we had in January, there was heavy support for this. So whether.
Do you have a metric of that? Do you have something tangible that I can see that shows that? The number, was there votes? Was there stickers? Was there dots? Was there?
We have the sign-in sheet, and I don't know if we have meeting
It
minutes.
was well attended, or this?
It was well intended. There were a lot of
Voted
people
on.
with children there who wanted, sidewalks for their kids to safely go. When we went to our field review, there were about 10 bikes chained to a stop sign because they use that and they go, that's where the bus stop is. So there is heavy support for it. I don't know if we actually have it written down as.
Well, we don't do a straw poll in neighborhoods. There's been support for it over the years. There's been requests for it. There's children in the area that walk on the streets, and so we've identified it as a safety hazard. And unfortunately, Commissioner Hetherington isn't here, but her office has received these requests over the years as well. There's no one that knows the constituents better in this neighborhood than Commissioner Hetherington. So between constituents reaching out to the commissioner's office, our request for service, and our own internal safety precautions or hazards that we've identified, we felt it was a viable project.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I was just going to say, personally think it's a good idea. I have children that ride the bus. I think it would be great to have sidewalks. And we have the opposite problem in Sewell's Point. Everybody wants sidewalks. We have no right of way. So I think that I don't have a dog in the race, and it seems like the neighborhood wants it. I think it's a good plan. So,
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you. Constructive conversation. We have a motion and a second. I would call to question.
Ms. Beltran.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know a couple of years ago when the city had a TAP application for Dixie Highway, there were some questions during this discussion at the MPO board meeting. So because of the nature of why this goes through the MPO board now, what the board decided to do, because we, if we will lose over $400,000 in bicycle pedestrian improvements if it's not approved, and at this meeting. So what they did a couple of years ago is to approve the application, but asked if, once it moved further in the design, that they come back, and that's what they ended up doing. The city, Pinal and the consultant, Joe Capra, came about a year later when the project was moving ahead to talk about specific aspects of the design. And so that's what I would recommend, to approve this item, to approve this application. And then if there are questions, if you want to have the county staff come back later, they can do that.
Commissioner Collins, please briefly.
Yes, who made the motion, would you be willing to amend your motion?
I made the motion.
What's that?
I made the motion.
Would you be willing to amend your motion along the lines of what Beth just said, that it comes back?
Sure,
to us for
absolutely.
review? And then the second?
Just to come back and that's what they did. That's what the city did with Dixie Highway. They came back to just update the board on the project during the design.
And then the seconder?
Fine.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on quickly, please. We're getting bogged down here. Let's take up 8G.
8G is something you all see every year. It's the Title VI report update. Title VI is non-discrimination. This is a federal requirement to make sure there is no discrimination in our transportation planning process. We're required to review the report every year and make any required updates. We did have a couple of minor updates this year. One was to add the training that we've had during the year for Title VI, which we're required to attend, as well as some updating some data to reflect the census. So staff is recommending approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about this.
Any questions? Commissioner Reed?
Yes, has there ever been a complaint about?
No.
Okay. That was it.
Commissioner Mayfield?
I'll make a motion to approve Title 11, is that 11? Another non-discrimination policy and plan update.
8G.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Public involvement annual report, 8H.
Yes, the MPO is also required to review its public participation plan every year, which we have done, and there we have no recommended updates for that. But we are also required to give an annual report to the advisory committees and board. And I'm going to turn it over to Ricardo Vasquez to present the annual report for 2024 to you all.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll be brief. So as Beth mentioned, we are give you guys an annual update regarding our public involvement activities throughout the calendar year. So this time would be for 2024. And as Beth mentioned, our public participation plan is our blueprint or guidebook as to how we're going to conduct our public involvement activities throughout all of our MPO planning processes and documents. And with that, in the PPP, they outlines several or 6 objectives, and with those objectives, several strategies that kind of gives us a way to monitor how we're doing that and track our progress. So objective 1 was to hold regular public meetings with MPO advisory committees to obtain feedback on all of our documents and projects to get input before bringing it to the MPO board. And here are just some of the items that you were able to give comments on and approve last year. Our Transportation Improvement Program, the Martin County Transit Development Plan, and the US 1 Congestion Management Study. There are 3 strategies associated with this objective, and all 3 were met. Objective 2 is provide equitable access to information regarding transportation decision-making. There are 6 strategies associated with this objective, and all 6 were met. And then here, throughout the slide, I added some pictures of some of the public involvement activities that we conducted over the past year, or over the 2024 calendar year. Objective 3 was to engage the public early and often with clarity so that opportunities exist for public feedback. And again, here are just some additional pictures of some outreach events we did. And there are 6 strategies associated with this objective, and all 6 were met. Objective 4 was to use a variety of methods to involve and engage the public. There are 6 strategies associated with this objective, and all 6 were met. And here you can just see we do a walk to school day with J.D. Parker Elementary. We have our MPO social media, our Facebook and our Instagram. We do have our recently updated MPO website. And Mobility Bucks is an award-winning activity that we do for our open houses. Objective 5 is to gather public feedback on the program or projects for Martin County Public Transit. 2 strategies are associated with this objective. Both were met. And last but not least, Objective 6 is to strive to continuously improve the public participation process. 3 strategies are associated with this objective. All 3 were met, and that's what we're doing here today. We bring the annual report, the public involvement annual report, to you all for your approval. The details of how the strategies were met and the tracking of those are included in the actual report in your agenda packet. And with that, we are looking for approval of the public involvement annual report.
Questions? Comments? Let's see, Commissioner Reed.
Yes, I just wanted to say to the MPO, I participated in some, and I tell Beth all the time, and Ricardo, you might have heard me, you guys do a lot, and I appreciate you when you do put these on with the clicker system and just everything, and you actually get the real feedback from the residents that live here, so thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yeah, I think you guys do a good job with public outreach also, and I would make a motion to approve the annual report as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. And now we will have our State Road 710 update.
Yes, FDOT District 4 staff is here to update you all on what's going on State Road 710. Here's Cesar Martinez and Ron Kariba.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Cesar Martinez, District Planning Environmental Administrator with FDOT. So on behalf of the department and our District Secretary Steve Braun, I would like to offer condolences to the family of those impacted by the most recent tragedy on 710, like a week ago. No serious injury or fatality is acceptable, and FDOT is committed to eliminating this through our Target Zero initiative. Target Zero initiative is about reducing serious injury crashes and driving or fatalities to zero. Over the past 2 years, FDOT has done a series of improvements along the corridor. 710 is one of the department's priorities. This corridor has been in discussions with all the leadership in the department. Our State Secretary Perdue is fully aware of the safety needs for the corridor. So starting with the State Road 710 and County Road 714 intersection, we did signing and pavement marking enhancements like last summer or so. We also funded the realignment of that intersection to 126. That realignment is currently in design and is funded for construction as well for 2030. We also started the design phase of the 4-lane widening from 126 down to Van Buren. Today, you heard earlier during this meeting, the update for the southern segment from Van Buren to Alapata. That southern segment is also funded for construction in 2030, fiscal year 2030. Now, the right-of-way phases for the whole corridor are partially funded, and we're also continuing to seek funding for the middle piece, again, from 126 to Alapata, that remains unfunded for construction. That's a total of about $170 million that are needed to complete, fully fund that project.
Questions for Mr. Martinez?
I would just ask that you hurry. I appreciate your statement that you made, but hurry. This is obviously a priority to us. We've got it at the top of our list for multiple. Do everything you guys possibly can internally to hurry and fast track this so less people are dying.
Mayor DiPaolo.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I think we need to expedite it. I mean, I know you know the fatalities, but I don't know that you know that there was a second person in that van that passed away. I worked out there for 30 years almost, with the sheriff's office. And I can't tell you how many bodies I've picked up off those roads. Horrific crashes, head-on crashes. Very hard to survive a head-on crash at the speeds that they're running out there. It's very hard to do traffic enforcement out there because you can't turn around. There's no place to turn around. There's no place to sit and hide. You literally need to take your whole shift out there to be able to pull somebody over to write a traffic ticket. So this is going to keep happening. You know, and I want to keep the push on to get it done as soon as possible. You know, what's a life worth? You know, I mean, life is worth a lot of money. Money you can't put a measurement on it. I know billionaires that have lost family members that would give up their billions to have that family member back. So I think we owe it to the community, to the families of the people that have perished out there. And like I said, I don't want to remember the things I've seen out there. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I think we need to keep it on the forefront before any more lives are lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Understood. We share the same sentiment. I mean, like I said, this corridor is the top priority for the department, one of the top priorities, and safety is our number one priority as an agency. So we'll continue to find funding opportunities to complete the widening and the construction of this corridor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more staff comments? Commissioner comments? In that case, our next meeting will be April 21st.
Commissioner, under notes, we do have an item for the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan outreach and survey. I just wanted Ricardo to kind of talk a little bit about the open house we have tonight.
Okay.
We are having an open house visioning session for our 2050 long-range transportation plan at the Hobe Sound Civic Center from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. I do ask that you guys reach out to your communities, and if they want to give their input, to please attend tonight. Also, I left a card by your computers or your monitors where the front will, if you scan that, will take you to the survey. The back will take you to the project webpage. If you need more of these cards to pass out to any meetings you're going to, please reach out, and I will do my best to get them to you. We are trying to get the word out as best we can to get all the input from the community.
I hope you'll ask them, as you're quizzing everybody, how they feel about taxpayers funding 100% of the cost of Brightline, since that was in the 2045. If you'll make that one of your points for the people to consider if they're for or against that.
I encourage you to take the survey, and so you can see what questions we're asking.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, Ricardo, do you have the PDF you could email me? Because we do have a board meeting tonight. I could print it out, and it's probably going to be a packed house tonight, so
Absolutely.
there might be a lot of people that want to provide their input.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Any further comments? We are adjourned.
Thank you.